Hello and welcome to Organic Cardboard. My name is Owen Kneep, and today I would like to talk about Zombicide, and specifically this is a kind of a two-part video. I want to give a general review over Zombicide, the Green Horde, a little review and a bit of an overview of that game. And I would like to talk about the new campaign that is finishing, the Zombicide White Death, which is a continuation of the medieval genre of Zombicide, where you had the Black Plague and then the Green Horde, and now it's finishing off with the White Death. I'm assuming it's finishing. Maybe they're going to continue that, but I feel like in general trilogies usually stop. There's no telling with Simon what they're going to do next. But Zombicide is a game that has it's been out for quite a while. There are so many different versions of the game. So you've got the original Zombicide that I want to say came out in like 2015. I'm not 100% on that, but you had the original Zombicide, which was like a modern day human, whatever, people in the modern day dealing with zombies, and all the neighbors and things, people grabbing their chainsaws and bats and whatever they can to take care of the zombies that are invading their town. So you had the original one, you had and again, I don't know if this is in any order, but you had Black Plague that came out. You had the Invaders version, which was like an alien version of Zombicide. There was the Western version came out recently, which was kind of like a Red Dead Redemption style. So, and then you'd had Black Plague and all that. There was the Marvel version of it, so you had all of the different comic book heroes that are being either undead or alive that are fighting, which was one of the biggest campaigns too. Everybody got in on that except for me. I'm not personally somebody that's super big into comic books, so not that I'm against it. It's again, you're kind of picking where you're putting your money at. Did not get in on that one. I actually hadn't played Zombicide anyways at the time that came out. But yeah, you had the Marvel version. There's what else do we got? There's the second edition, and then you've got White Death that's coming out. So all in all, in the series, considering the new one that's come out, there are like 8 different versions of Zombicide. And personally, I'm one of those people that when I see a game that's just constantly being redone with new iterations, I get a little turned off from it. I almost think that they're just playing a cheap angle, and they're redoing, they're not wanting to have to go through the process of creating a new game. They're just reskinning and retheming the same old thing over and over again, and it's a little bit of a turn off for me. It usually reminds me of things like how Catan's been overdone over the years, and monopolies have certainly done that, where it's just it kind of makes me think of these just old cheap ways of continuing to grab money. So I personally wasn't originally attracted to Zombicide, and then with the new this new Kickstarter that came out, I was a little just wondering a little bit about it. When a game's been successful and has been doing those iterations over and over again, and it's still staying relevant, at some point I feel I need to play it once to just see what it's all about, to see if I'm missing out on something, or at the very least I've got a reference for people that have played it, because almost everybody's played Zombicide at this point. That's in the board game hobby anyways, except for myself, until fairly recently. So let's talk about Green Horde specifically. Now, I got to play Zombicide for the first time a few weeks ago. I went over to Sean's house and got to play the Black Plague. So Sean has a few different versions of it. He's got the original, or actually he's got the second edition of the original version, and he's got the Black Plague. He's got the Invaders. But again, I'm a little more partial to that medieval theme, so I tried the Black Plague out with him. He was nice enough to run through a game with me, and we played one of the basic starting quests. I think it was the first quest, the easiest one probably that you play through, and it was fun. I enjoyed my time with it. I had a good time. It wasn't too crazy. I don't think I got the full Zombicide experience because we really were able to manage the zombies fairly well. There was a little bit of a horde showing up at some point in the game, but we were able to just kind of skirt around them and just pick up all the objectives and things that we needed to without too much difficulty. And so it was fun enough. But I went back, I went home, and I'm looking at the White Death coming out and all that, and so I'm wondering, was there any base version of the game that maybe I would like to just get a hold of and be able to play with at home and test out a little bit and see if I was going to really be interested in Zombicide as a series. And so looking at them all, I was really partial to what the Green Horde was doing. So the Green Horde is, again, that medieval sword and sorcery kind of genre. And they are introducing orcs as the zombies. And I have always really enjoyed that idea of the warring, humans and orcs, like Warcraft originally did and has continued over the years. For some reason, I don't know why, orcs fighting humans. I could be the orcs, I could be the humans, but I just really enjoy that interaction of the two. I always find that the brute nature of orcs is just fun. It's intimidating. And so Zombicide, Green Horde, the major differences in any other Zombicide game is that the orcs are more powerful, so they do an extra hit of damage, which Zombicide uses small numbers for damage. The zombies are either doing 1 or 2 damage, or 3, and that's like the most is 3. 3 is like a huge number, so going up from 1 to another is a big difference. The orcs in here do 2 damage instead of 1. Well, the walkers do 2. So in the normal Zombicide, you've got 3 main kinds of zombies besides the 2 big ones. And so you've got walkers, you've got the fatties or brutes, whichever one you want to call it, and then you've got the runners. And so normally the walkers and the runners both do 1 damage, and the fatties will do 2 damage. And Green Horde, the orcs, then the walkers do 2 damage, the fatties do 3, the runners still just do 1, I believe, but they get to do that double action. So they're a little more intimidating for that reason. They're supposed to again have that idea that they're orcs, and orcs are brutish in real life, and so they're even more so when they're undead and they're coming after you. So that's the one of the main differences. The other big difference is that you have this horde mechanic that is going on. So normally you're kind of creating hordes anyways when you're playing Zombicide. You're drawing these zombie invasion cards off of the deck, and they're going to usually add like 2 or 3 zombies onto the board, and you might be drawing a few of those at a time, and they can kind of pile up if your spawn locations are in the same area, or if you're opening up a big building and you've got several sections that are being drawn for. And so in this one, on almost every one of those cards that you're drawing regular zombies for, you will also take an additional one of that version of zombie and set it off on the side of the board, and that will create this horde that is slowly like building up. They're kind of like resting at the gates or whatever you want to, they're just amassing somewhere. You don't know where until you draw that horde. There's like a card that releases the whole horde out, and so you might just be going into a little building, and all of a sudden like 15 or 20 zombies just plop up all at once in that same area. So it's scary. It's really intimidating when that happens. The third big difference though in the game is that you get to use siege weapons. So the core game comes with a trebuchet, and if you have a hero over in that location, then they can spend 3 actions in order to activate the trebuchet, which a lot of times is like the only thing that they can do. Normally your characters all only have 3 actions that they can do on each round, and so they have to use all their ability to sling this thing off, and it will it'll do a pretty big hit on any group. So you can do a 1 damage attack. But you get to roll 6 dice for it. So you can potentially knock out 6 zombies with that. If you've got a hero in line of sight too, it takes down the required roll. So like a 3 or higher will hit them with that. So it's really good to thin out these hordes that show up. You can actually hit the horde that's off of the board too, that's piling up. You can aim it that direction. It can pretty much hit anywhere in the board. It can even hit inside buildings, but it can't hit anywhere that's like directly next to it, or inside its space. So that's fun. I find that when you're playing the game, you're usually going to have like 2 or 3 of your characters just sitting around the trebuchet all the time, so they can keep trying to thin these hordes out, because they get crazy on this game. Going back to my experience of Green Horde and the review of it, I wasn't really expecting like a huge difference from my original gameplay of it. I played the like tutorial mission for it, and it was pretty basic. I didn't think it was like, it felt like it was a tutorial, so I ended up going pretty quickly into playing the first full quest of it. And man, that really surprised me. I was really surprised by how much I enjoyed it. So you're playing, as I played solo. Normally when you play this game, you're going to have 6 heroes out, so I'm controlling 6 different people. In a way, it's easier when you're playing by yourself, because you can manipulate the turn order of each one of those heroes. Where if you're playing two or 3 or more people playing the game, you're sharing these different heroes amongst those people, and when it's going to go in the same the turn order can change hands, but otherwise you get kind of restricted on which heroes can go when. So it's a little easier to manipulate the heroes around by yourself. And so I'm running around. I'm trying to grab these objectives. I'm playing this mission where you've got Dragon Bile, which is this emollient that you're using to just it's basically like a bomb that you can set off in an area to kill everything in that section of the game. And you got to connect it with a torch. This is a common thing in any Zombicide games. If you've played Zombicide before, most of these Zombicide games they're pretty much doing the same thing with a little bit of variation. And Green Horde isn't too far off from that. So I'm running around picking up those. I'm trying to grab some of these objectives along with them, and you got to pick up some of these random vault weapons too that show up there, like the more powerful weapons in the game that are randomized, but otherwise where on the board the vault cards are at. You know which ones are going to be the bile. So as I'm playing, like these hordes I'm really starting to get the true experience of Zombicide, because I'm starting to get really overwhelmed with zombies. Those hordes kept piling up off of the board and then exploding out onto it. So I was dealing with these like massive sections where I literally couldn't fit all of the zombies in one square. I'm having like 20 zombies at a time in a horde, and they're moving relatively quickly. Zombicide does this weird thing where when you've got 2 paths that a group can go into, they split. But if you have like a single zombie, or you have like an odd number of zombies in this section, if they've got 2 paths to get to you, to get to their closest location that they're going after, then they'll split off. And if you can't split them off in an even way, then you have to just add a new zombie into that section to make them even, so they kind of multiply as they're at a distance from you. And so they're multiplying on the board. I'm drawing quite a bit of zombies. As the game goes on, your experience gets higher, and you start to hit these higher levels of experience, and then that translates to even more zombies that come out on the board, because you're also able to effectively kill them a lot easier. But that means that the game increases the difficulty to make it a little crazier with all these guys showing up. And I found a lot, like at some point I was playing, and I was just like, how the heck am I supposed to win this? Because every time I'm starting to get anywhere at clearing out some pathways of these zombies, next thing I know, there's just additional hordes of zombies showing up. And so I'm playing around dealing with all that, and eventually I start saying, the quest goals for this was to run around and again grab all this dragon bile, but it didn't say you couldn't use it. So I decided I was going to need to start utilizing the dragon bile and blow these zombies up. And I had the caster, the character that was able to use the little magic scrolls. She got some area control abilities, so we were able to start pushing these zombies around and kind of get them grouped together. And I remember one particularly like satisfying round where I had to coordinate all of my heroes together. They all had to do something to make this work, and where I was able to push these zombies, get them together in one section, and then have one of my characters throw dragon bile on them, and then another one was able to get a torch to the person that was able to use it and throw it on top of it and explode like literally 20 zombies at once, which just shot his experience like really far up. But it was extremely satisfying because here I am getting overwhelmed constantly, and I'm grouping these guys together. I blow them all up, and all of a sudden there's just this big clear section on the board and a breath of air when you feel like you're starting to have a hard time breathing as all these guys are continuing to just pile up and overwhelm you. And I just found that really satisfying. Now, granted, the next time that I was drawing zombies, I mean, pretty quickly, there was just another huge horde coming, and the old horde's building up again. And so once that adrenaline starts to build up in the game, it doesn't stop, and you just have to kind of run around and get the things done that you need to do, and not fuss with the zombies as so much. You're never going to keep them just cleared off of the board anyways. So I was just the things that I really enjoyed about it was that adrenaline effect. I was literally getting like worked up playing a board game, like, oh god, like all this crazy stuff that's going on, and I'm creating these stories in my head of what each one of these characters are doing. It doesn't just simply feel like they're just a random hero. Certain ones are really standing out as being super powerful as they're able to pull off these feats and kill out quite a few zombies at a time. And some of them are just barely getting by the skin of their neck. I had one character that ended up eventually getting killed, and all of it was building this like internal dialogue of flavor text in my head. I found that really fun. I was even like in my own head, I was imagining one hero like yelling at the other one to come either help him or to do this, or I need this item, or whatever, and to bring it to him. I found that really really satisfying. It was a lot of fun. But Green Horde is not doing a whole lot different from those original Zombicide formulas. So without going into too great a detail of like the actual overview of Zombicide, I will say it's doing the same thing where you've got, again, walkers, you've got fatties or brutes, whatever you want to call them, you've got runners, and then you've got one abomination and one necromancer in a core set, and then if you have expansions, you can have variations of those that pop up, or multiple ones of them even. But I just played with a core box, so it was just a single one of each of those. And same thing, you got a hero turn where all the heroes get to do 3 actions, and then you've got a zombie turn where all the zombies that are on the board move, and then you do like a spawn event where you're spawning at every one of the spawn locations. Zombies get those same spawns for every room and a building that's opened up. If it was a closed building and you go into it, you open that up, you can create noise to corral zombies into areas they'll find. If they don't see anybody, they'll just go to the noisiest area. Each one of your heroes is a noise effect of themselves, so if you have piled up heroes in the same section, they'll start attracting zombies to them on their own. And you're running around doing a fairly simple quest objectives. It usually just has to do with you getting to a certain location and just activating a little X that's on the board. And Green Horde, the biggest things that they're doing are those 3 differences again, with the stronger orcs and the siege weapons and the horde effect. But what the big appeal, I think, of Zombicide is that it does just recreate that terror of being overwhelmed by zombies. I think that's where the game really shines, and the experience that I was getting out of my first couple plays of it was not that. And by this, the first, I would call the first like real experience of Zombicide was this last game that I played, and man, I was again very surprised by how much I enjoyed it. To rate this game, I had to think about it for a bit, because I thought, like, going off those original plays, I would have rated it maybe like a 7.5, 7, somewhere around there. When I rate games, I say a 7 is going to be a game that anybody that wants to play it, I'll be glad to play it. I think it would be fun time anytime to get it out. If it's an 8, I would say that it is a game that I actively am going to want to play and to get other people to play. And I'm going to be the one saying, hey, do you guys want to play Zombicide? Now, I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. I think that this is a game that I will actually actively want to get out, at least occasionally. I'm going to be trying to bring that out to get other people to play it. I think it's a lot of fun solo. I think it's easier probably solo. I don't think the time is going to scale up much if you have multiple people, because they essentially just end up taking the other heroes, except that all the discussion is now between additional people. So like when you're trying to discuss what one person's doing or the other, that may increase your time playing it. It's not necessarily so, but sometimes there's a lot of discussion back and forth. Sometimes that helps, because sometimes when you're playing by yourself, you're a little bit more confused. Other people are staring at their character and thinking about what their character can do to be most helpful. And sometimes they're just saying, well, I just want to do this, and they can certainly do whatever they ultimately are wanting to do when it's their turn. So, but I think that the game is going to especially shine sharing this experience of the adrenaline, because where I felt like I had this big experience by myself and all this story that was going on in my head as these guys were trying to survive, and not all of them successfully doing so. I was talking about it for a good bit the day after I played it with everybody that I was around, but they didn't get to share that experience directly, and so I think the game's really again going to shine to having other people to play with it as well. So I look forward to getting more people to play it. But that's Green Horde. That's essentially the overview and review of Green Horde. Now, the big question, and what I'm more or less titling this video with, is do you need more Zombicide in your life? White Death is finishing again within the next day. And Zombicide is one of those games that, especially with CMON, it's such a massive amount of just vomited content whenever they do one of these campaigns. It is way more content than you need. Now, you'll hear people talk about like Kickstarter bloat. I think these games get really bloated with the amount of additional content that they have. Now, some people may disagree with me. They love all this extra stuff. But especially from what I've seen of White Death, I think that a lot of it's just a bunch of unnecessary stuff. I'm still on the fence of whether I'm going to back White Death. I've kept it at $1 pledge so I can get into the pledge manager. Either way, even if I did know for certain that I was wanting to get into it, I would still financially need to hold off for a little bit just to have the comfortable funds to be able to spend on that game. But I do want to I'm going to think about it for quite a bit. The big thing that is drawing me, I'll talk about the things that are drawing me to White Death and the things that I'm a little hesitant about. The main draws is that although that's doing essentially the same formula that all Zombicides are doing, the big differences is that you have a wall mechanic where you're kind of playing the ice wall or whatever from Game of Thrones. You're in a cold environment. You're able to do things like freeze the zombies, and you are also having the zombies affect the wall in different ways. So the zombies are going to kind of pile up at the wall and kind of scale themselves as they group up over there. There's going to be a necromancer ability as they're coming through to just put this green like cloud of noxious nastiness that just eats a hole away in the wall as it comes through, and then they're going to pour in. So as you're kind of fending them off for a while, at some point they're going to end up breaking through the wall. That looks fun. One of the I'd say the thing that's probably the biggest draw mechanic wise for the difference of this game is that they have these guards. They're somewhat of an NPC character that your heroes can use actions to command. So they can send the guards to do certain things, including, I think, attacking the zombies. And one of the main things that they can do is they're going to have like cauldrons of oil on the wall that you can send them to pour over the wall to catch these big groups of zombies that are piling up there, and then set it ablaze just like you would normally with the dragon bile to essentially napalm that whole area and blow it up. So that's interesting. There's an Eastern theme with White Death, and I think it's pretty neat. So you kind of have this combination of all these like Eastern cultural references between China, India, Japan, kind of almost anime-esque martial arts characters. You've got a lot of these different kind of again martial arts weapon wielding acrobatic kind of characters. You've got these like furries. There's a lot of these like fox, and there's like monkey characters, and these like humanoid versions. I can't remember if there's like a bear type version, but there's at least like a few different of these. There's even like a rabbit humanoid. I'm not particularly like interested in those, but they're cool enough. One of the really fun things is that they have this expansion that's going to be coming out with it that is a Ninja Turtles expansion. I'm definitely interested in that. I'm a kid of the 90s, and so Ninja Turtles was really big in my childhood, and that nostalgia factor of throwing Ninja Turtles into the mix is certainly a draw. But I will say that, again, going off of this like bloat that's going on in the game, you've got so many of these characters are like really similar to each other. They kind of start to feel like these almost generic versions of these like martial art. I'm trying to think what they call that. I know there's one of the expansions they call it the Bushido something or other, and I can't remember if Bushido refers to like the weapon arts of martial arts. But so you have all these like classic kind of ninja style weapons and things that are being used. So you've got this, martial arts ninja character, and this one and that one, and they all start to kind of blend. A lot of them, anyways, start to blend together to look like they're not really all that distinct from each other. Even though I know they have their own flavor text that individualizes them and all that. But I could take it or leave that stuff, and I could certainly leave it for the extra price. But the core game, all the extra Kickstarter content that you get that comes with that core game, not considering the Kickstarter additional buys that you can get, but just the box of extra goodies that come with just buying the core game, and that Ninja Turtles expansion. Those are probably the biggest draws, along with the mechanics of the game for me to want to go after. But it's a huge game. If you're gonna get like the expansions and all that kind of stuff, I mean, you're paying well over $300 for this game, past shipping and all that. It's probably gonna, honestly, like I think it's probably closer to like $400, which is a lot of money to pay for a game like Zombicide. I know it has a ton of miniatures, and miniatures cost money. CMON's always been big about putting out a huge amount of miniatures for the price. But I'm just it's a lot, and you're certainly going to find like the expansions for cheaper than you would through and even the core box. You're going to find that cheaper outside of the Kickstarter, but you're not going to get all those Kickstarter exclusives. And this is certainly a style of campaign where you kind of do get your money's worth out of the Kickstarter exclusive, at least for the amount of content that you get. You get quite a bit of additional like zombie alternates and the abominations and necromancer types that come with it. Well more than enough for me anyways to think about if I get the core box as well as those additional Kickstarter extras that come with that. But then again, a lot of their expansion content is Kickstarter exclusive. Some looks neater than others, but it's not for me to want to get all of it. But you may want to be one of those completionists. I got over the majority of my completionist habit that I had earlier on in the hobby. And at this time in my maturity, I guess, as I'm maturing as a board game enthusiast, I am a little more judicial about deciding what content I really want, that I really know I'm going to play with. Because it sucks to get all this stuff and then feel like buyer's remorse later as you see boxes and boxes of content that you never touch. I've still got Frosthaven sitting up there untouched. At least that one I know I got a really good deal on it by going through the Kickstarter, and I will eventually play it. But I think that's about all I've got to say for what's going on with this campaign. Do you need more Zombicide in your life? And the answer is no. If you've got Zombicide, if you already have a lot of this content, like if you went full in on the Green Horde, do you really need to go full in on White Death? That's up to you ultimately, of course, to decide. Again, if you just love Zombicide and you love having a stack up to the ceiling of boxes, then by all means go ahead and get all of it. But you're going to be paying a lot of money for a game that is kind of on the lighter side of medium of a game. I don't know, maybe it's medium. If you've got one person that knows Zombicide well, if they know all of like the rules, it's a fairly light game for the other people playing with you. It still has to hit into that medium range, but the heaviness, the weight of the rules and things like that, it's a fairly simple game, so it's like in that lighter end of medium range. And I found I was flipping through the book quite a bit to get these little tiny rules that if an experienced player was sitting with me would have just been snapping through, and it would have felt very simple. It's nothing like playing the actual sword and sorcery game from Ares Games. That is intensely full of rules. This is not that bad, but again, it's a hard thing with Zombicide. There's so much content for it. If I had already gone and purchased like one set, if I had even gotten the Black Plague, I don't know if I would have gotten Green Horde. Maybe because those two really kind of went together really strongly. And I personally, from what I've seen, I think Green Horde is definitely a better game than what Black Plague is doing, just because of the additional mechanics and things that are in it. White Death, I don't think is going to necessarily be better than Green Horde, but it's neat and it's different enough, and I am interested in it. So we'll see. I'm likely to get the core box of it, but I don't know just yet. So I hope all this rambling maybe helps you guys think about whether you want to actually get in on it or not. At any length, I'm always just super thankful that you guys actually stop and sit and listen to me ramble on about games like this. I think that's about all I've got to say again about it. If you enjoy this kind of content, you can give a couple of those free clicks on the screen. It does always really help support channels like my own, and I do really appreciate it when you do. But otherwise, guys, I hope you are enjoying your games. I hope you're enjoying Zombicide if you have Zombicide. If you don't have any version of Zombicide, go get one. I think it's definitely worth having in your collection, at least one of them. if you don't like medieval theme, I think the a second edition of the original Zombicide is really fun. With what I've seen of the, I got to go through Sean's Zombicide second edition and got to look at all the neat little characters. He got the base game and the Kickstarter extras that came with that, and they're really fun. There's some really neat little versions of just goofy characters that would be in a modern day zombie theme. But get yourself one of them though, and enjoy it and get in on that. See what it's all about. Don't wait like me. Don't wait so long to get into Zombicide. But anyways, again, I thank you guys so much. I hope you all have an excellent rest of your day. And until next time, take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.